Hi, this is Anthony Lighthall. Thank you for joining me today on this podcast entitled From Dreams to Actions, where we talk about business goals, supporting positive energy, and following your dreams. On today's episode, I'm going to talk with you about networking, just everything about networking in regards to how to do it, the importance of it, the reasons for doing it. And the reason why this episode sparked was because I was talking to someone about networking, and this happens a lot with people that may be introverts, which I consider myself an introvert, or people that just don't know how to network. And someone mentioned to me, like, how do you network? Like, how do you even do that? And then we just kind of got into the discussion about, their LinkedIn page and how do you network and just the strategies. And it can be very uh, intimidating, especially when you go to like networking events. You're in there with leaders, people in marketing or finance, whether this is a internal work meeting or maybe it's just a meet and greet or a networking event. You don't know who you're going to be rubbing shoulders with. It could be a CEO, a person who started their business back in the 80s and now they're making millions of dollars. So it can be very intimidating if you are not that person that puts yourself out there. And that's why I wanted to talk about the power of networking and hopefully share some tips and some things I've gone through that has kind of helped me with networking along the way. So definitely enjoy the show. Sit back, relax, and take in some of the items and talking points I'm going to be speaking about today. So I always start off and say, I'm going to start off and say that your network is your net worth. And I'm a huge believer on that. I feel like the people that you have in your circle, your clique, your area, your cheerleaders, whatever title it is, the people that you surround yourself with are invaluable and they are more than money. And they can actually help you get to the journey and get to those goals of making money if that's your motivation. But your network is your net worth. And I heard about this when I was it wasn't a networking event, but it was like a seminar, a business seminar. And someone mentioned that and it just stuck with me. And I feel like a lot of people say it nowadays, but it still holds truth and I believe in it. And a lot of truth to that statement. Like I said, if you're looking to move up the corporate ladder, if you're an entrepreneur looking to grow your business, having meaningful connections and having a strategic way of using your network is very crucial. So, why is networking so important? Let's talk about that a little bit. Um, a lot of times you hear it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I do feel that's truthful as well. I think having that experience and knowledge definitely kind of adds to that. But if you have somebody vouching for you or co-signing, I'll say, when it comes to whatever you're trying to get into, whatever profession, I think that really holds a lot of weight, especially depending on who's really doing the co-signing and who's saying, "Hey, Jim is a great leader," or "I worked with Cynthia before on this project. She's amazing." So that can really help out, especially with not what you know, it's who you know and who you have in your network. Um, with that, segueing in, networking, it can open doors for you where other people who don't have that network or don't know how to network, those doors most likely will be closed or they don't know how to open those doors because they don't have somebody who has the key, basically. So networking definitely opens doors and provides other opportunities for you that other people may not have at that time. And so also networking too, I'll also add, it helps with mentorship, mentee mentor relationships. And I have mentors. I don't care what level you're at in your career. I don't care if you just graduate from college or you're a well-seasoned individual. Throughout your career, throughout your life, you should have some type of mentor. And it doesn't always have to be professional. It could just be someone who is helping you with launching or growing your business, someone who is part of a community that you're probably trying to enter into. And this is a person that you can talk to and be mentored by, because the whole point of a mentor is really to be groomed by this person. You admire this person in some way. They're at a level that you probably desire to be at. And I always say you want to try to avoid making the same mistakes that someone else has made. So a lot of times that mentor has made those mistakes already. And so it would be up to their um, I'll say obligation or job as a mentor to be like, no, I wouldn't suggest going that route. I actually did that and I kind of got burned. It didn't work out for me, but this is what I would suggest or recommend. And sometimes they can actually help you save time or, um, any downfalls that may happen. They know where the pitfalls are at. And so having a great network, can really foster that relationship of mentor mentee situation. And you may be not just looking for the mentor, you may be someone who is able to mentor someone else as well. So, networking and you see someone fresh college grad, they're in finance, you are a manager or director in the finance department, you kind of draw a liking to this person. They remind you of you, or a younger brother, a younger sister, a cousin or something, and you take that person under your wing and you are their mentor and you just really want to pay it forward. So that really helps out as well with networking. It's not just about, and I'll talk about this later too, but not just about you getting something out of it, but what can you provide to others while you are networking as well. And I feel like that's another important factor, on the reasons why networking is important. Let me give you an example of what happened to me during a period of me being laid off from work. And it was a very difficult time because the time was just continuing on and I wasn't finding um, employment or landing employment. I was, going on interviews. I was very aggressive. I was very strategic. I had my whole plan on the interviews and applying. But, it can get very lonesome. You feel like you're the only person going through this. And during that period, I wasn't, and I learned that. And I learned that because of my network. And so there are certain people, whether they were employed or whether they were in the same situation as I was in, during my transition of being off work and really building that community of that network. And that was so helpful because I was able to, really bounce ideas off of people. We're able to share, different job descriptions or, different education or resources on how to interview better or enhance your resume, or now is all types of things that we were able to help each other out within this community of people and check in on each other, make sure, it can get very depressing and lonesome and imposter syndrome and a lot of things, a lot of self-doubt. And so really having those cheerleaders, having those mentors, even mentees, just that community overall for me personally was very helpful, to the point where I finally got a job offer and I was in the negotiations for my job offer and just the total compensation package of what was offered to me. And so I reached out to my network, to someone specifically, and I was like, hey, would you mind, I got a job offer. Would you mind being a sounding board for me to discuss with you about the offer? And then here's my wish list. I had like 10 things of I wanted to negotiate. And this person, she was able to help me narrow that down to like 3 or 4 things and really walk me through that negotiation period. And it was really helpful to really, talk with someone that was an advocate of me, someone that was willing to help me through the negotiation period. And long story short, most likely got everything that I wanted on my negotiations and how to strategically uh, verbalize that, I'll say, and then came to an agreement with that company. So I appreciated her for that, and I was able to pay it forward, and anything that she was looking excuse me, for advice on or anything, I was able to help her out in that way too. Going back to networking, as well, is I talked about the opening the doors concept with networking, but also you don't want to miss out on opportunities because you aren't networking. And many people do miss out on opportunities because they don't have a network or they don't know how to network. And there could be just something simple that can get them to that next level with their business, get them to that next level in their career, or just for them for self development. But because they don't have that network or those cheerleaders or those individuals to help them along the way, they miss out on opportunities. And I don't want that to be you all. So, it's not just about collecting business cards and connecting with everyone on LinkedIn who probably looks like you or who probably has the same background as you. It's really fostering those genuine relationships, with those individuals, and how can it benefit both parties? How can it benefit you, and how can it benefit the other person that you are trying to network with as well? And I would also say, with that, going into like the social media side of things or the social platforms of networking, I wanted to share a couple of tips on how you can kind of leverage, that networking effectively. When you're on, I'm going to use a lot of examples with LinkedIn because I definitely use that, and I feel like it's such a great tool that's out there. But networking effectively and really fostering those relationships. Online networking, I feel, is very crucial. The person I just shared with you that helped me with the negotiations, I never met this person before. We talked over the phone, uh, and they also live in a different state. So, the person that you're networking with doesn't necessarily have to be in your quote unquote backyard. These people could be in different countries. The world is so large, but it's getting smaller with the ways and opportunities for us to connect with people. But anywho, continuing on with online networking is very crucial because it just opens your net. It just widens your net larger, and like I said, with using LinkedIn, it's great for professionals, more of like the white collar jobs, the corporate jobs. But also, I'm sure there's a lot of different associations if you are into a trade, if you're an electrician, a plumber, a roofer, if you're in retail, if you are an entrepreneur, there's different platforms and networking opportunities as well for you in different associations and communities to tap into as well, which I would definitely highly suggest if you are one of those listeners, because that can definitely help to um, open the doors of opportunities, for you as well. Going back to LinkedIn or any platform or online platform that you use to network with people, definitely a lot of times they want you to have a profile picture. Make sure it's just very polished. Make sure it's your best foot forward. This is your appearance is your resume, and so that's very important. I'm going to touch on something really quick, a quick segue example. Um, with the LinkedIn photo, I didn't have a photo for quite some time. It was a couple years when I first was early in my career in LinkedIn, and I didn't have a photo up there because of a couple things. One being an African American male, and two, um, at the time looking young. Some people say I still look young, so thank you. But my appearance of probably looking younger than what I am, and so. Uh, I didn't have a photo up there because of those factors, and I felt I would be discriminated against for certain things if I was applying for a manager role or applying to certain positions. And I'm like, oh well, because of the color of my skin or because of how I look or just my age or appearance or what have you, I may not have that look or that brand that employer is looking for. And so I spoke with someone about this who was in my network. I would like to add, and she mentioned that put your profile up. If that organization or company doesn't hire you because of based on your looks or how your age, they're assuming your age, or maybe they're assuming your ethnicity, then that's an employer you don't want to work for. And if they make that decision prior to even talking to you, looking at your profile picture on LinkedIn, then don't even worry about it. And so, and then she coached me on some other things too with that, and actually coached me on the benefits of having my profile picture, and I appreciate it to this day. And I have a picture up there, high and proud of how I look, and I feel like it has definitely benefited me along the way within my career and journey. So I just kind of wanted to share that with having a polished picture, but at least showing your face on these social media platforms or on these networking platforms online. Be engaging. I think a lot of people miss out on this. It's called social media. It's a networking platform. It's LinkedIn. It's not just clicking everyone to be in your connection or to be within your network. It's being engaged. It's sharing different resources, different articles. It's sharing your opinion on some things, challenging your network, and hey, what do you think about this? Or here are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? And having a nice, healthy conversation and debate. It shows that you're not afraid to speak up. It shows that you're respectful. It's not just your opinion, it's maybe asking of other people's opinions. It shows, you can articulate well, you can type well. It's so many positives and pluses um, that you can see on someone's profile if they are very engaged within these social platform. So I would definitely say be engaging, and that's something I learn and I take time out of my day or week if there's something I wanted to share within my network and post and just kind of get comments about. But it just keeps me on the forefront on people's minds and shares my profile. There's another certification I got or a new job I have, and it just lets people see and gets to see who I am and what I'm doing. Commenting on posts, again, is just part of engagement. Commenting on other people's posts in a respectful way, of course, or maybe challenging that post with a great question or follow up question that can really get you engagement and um, get you seen within these platforms as well. And reposting someone's post, which I've done before. Some people have done all the hard work putting a post together, and I just kind of repost it just to help get them exposure. And then they're like, "Oh, who's reposting my stuff? Let me connect with them." Or you repost it and you add your comments to it. So there's a lot of different ways on how you can kind of navigate that and work that within your network. Um, some other things too, just to wrap up on examples with LinkedIn. Um, it overall shows that, especially when you're commenting, when you're reposting, when you're sharing your thoughts, when you're asking for thoughts or feedback, it just makes people more interested in you. You get more likes, more followers, more people to connect with you, people that probably want to reach out to you. Hey, I've seen you've been in marketing for 15 years. I'm early in my career. I graduated 3 years ago. Can we have like a quick coffee chat, or can you share with me your background? That's a connection. That's awesome. And they saw that based on something that you did with your engagement on this platform to network, and that can foster a relationship. Foster a great networking opportunity for you and for that other person. So let's switch gears from the online networking into in-person networking. We all remember these back in the day prior to COVID, but they are coming back. Um, but I remember going to different networking events. I was so into these. I would go on eventbrite.com, or there were certain events. I would be part of different associations or different boards, and they would have networking events. And it was great to just kind of network with people. And even though I'm an introvert, but I know how to kind of work my social skills and extrovert skills as well, to talk with people and really engage with people and learn from them, and they can learn from me as well. So attending these events and seminars and conferences or whatever they were, being able to connect with people from maybe the same industry or different walks of life, different industries as well. And being face to face, it really helps. Everything, just your body language, your posture, your speech, your eye contact. A lot of times, complimenting someone on something, or maybe you all wore the same color shoes or something, telling a side joke, and then that's your end to go ahead and start having like a networking conversation. Hey, I'm Anthony, or hey, I'm Zach. Hey, I'm Christina, Amber. What do you do? And then that kind of sparks that conversation, with those in-person networking events. Um, as I've kind of alluded and talked about throughout this episode, it's not always about, a couple things with this. With the networking, It's not always about what you can get out of it, but it's like how can you pour into someone? What what skills do you have? What's something that is a positive that you have that you can kind of showcase or talk to people about that's going to make people gravitate towards you. Um, People are going to be like, oh, you know who that is? Oh, that's the leader of this, or this person works here, or that's the business, that's the person that started that one company that has that, commercial, or is sponsoring that podcast. What is going to help people get to know who you are. So again, the networking is how do you pour into others, and then it comes back to you, full circle, because they may have some strengths that may be your weaknesses, and how do you all work together and collaborate within the network. The other thing I wanted to share was, for me personally, when I in the beginning of my career, when I would go to networking events, to me it was all about, oh, well, I don't have to go to that event because I'm not looking for a job. I was going there looking for something. I was going there like, what are they gonna what are they gonna add to me? I don't need to go to that networking event because I'm good right now in my career, or I have everything that I need. So I was there with a naive and an ignorant mindset of, I need to go to this networking event when my back's up against the wall, or when I need something in the next couple weeks. When honestly, I started to learn and educate myself that going to these networking events was, you never know. You never know what may happen in the future. You never know what door may open. You never know. You may be great in, I'll use the word comfortable at your job, or you're in a good space at your job, but that person could share something with you that can help elevate you to that next level in that leadership role at your job. So don't go to the networking event again just thinking, oh, I need something right now, let me go network. It's more of like, oh, I'm in a good space right now. Let me see who I can connect with. Let me see who I can provide some assistance to, or guidance, or share some of my background and experience with. Who can I kind of connect with? You never know. So just to kind of have that in the back of your mind as well, with like in-person networking, or just networking overall, especially in person, because that takes some action with you actually getting away from a computer screen or a phone screen, and actually being somewhere in person physically. Um, some other examples and tips continuing on with in-person networking is, I had an episode talking about this. Dress the way you want to be addressed. So make sure you're sharp. Make sure you don't got to be in a tux. You don't have to be in some gown. Uh, but just make sure that you are presentable. You look approachable. When you go to these events, you're polished. Some people like just talking to someone who dresses really nice. You can talk about your cufflinks, talk about your pocket square, talk about that blouse. Oh, I like your shoes. Stuff like that. It shows confidence. It shows you're there to mean business. You're there to network, to rub shoulders with certain people, to get to know people. When you have that polished look, when you have that confidence look, maybe bring someone along with you. Again, in the beginning of this podcast, this episode, I mentioned networking can be very intimidating. How do I do it? Who do I talk to? Everyone's in their little pods. It seems like everybody knows each other. They actually don't. Some people may have went to college together, or worked, at different companies, and they linked up. But a lot of those little pods, a lot of people don't know each other. They're just having a good time because there's some topic that they're sharing, or some show or movie or documentary or book that they all have in common, and they're just kind of having a great conversation and experience. So how do you kind of wiggle into there? So bring someone with you. That can really help. I've brought people with me to networking events, whether I'm kind of the wingman or like that support, or I want them to come along and kind of be that support with me as well. So that's really helpful. As I said, I was kind of talking about like compliment people on like their attire, or just something that kind of catches your eye, if they're wearing a cool hat, or if they have a pendant of their alma mater, something that kind of gets you in. But talking to that person, you kind of break the ice a little bit, as they call it. So I feel like a lot of times when you compliment someone on something, or hey, I couldn't help to mention, or over here you were talking about, the Boston Bruins, and I love hockey. they're playing the Blackhawks, this upcoming weekend. Do you have tickets for that? And then you just kind of talk, to that person and get to know them a little bit more. You already kind of broke the ice with sports. You broke the ice with fashion. You talked about a book. I love to read. I love to read books about leadership and things like that. Whatever it is, it helps you wiggle in there. So go ahead and try that out. Um, a couple other things here to share before we wrap up is the art of strategic networking. It it helps to cast a wide net, but it's not just about casting a wide net. It is again fostering those strategic relationships, making sure they're purposeful, um, you're aligning with that person on something, identifying that individual, helping them with their goals. How could they probably help you with your goals, throughout your life and your path and your journey. So it's all about that. It's just being, very, strategic, about that. Don't afraid to ask for guidance and ask for assistance from someone via LinkedIn or someone you just met at a networking event. I'm gonna share like a Dale Carnegie uh, 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 portion here. Dale Carnegie wrote, if I can remember the title, how to How to Influence People and Win Friends. I might have it backwards. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's one of those. It's a great book. But Dale Carnegie talks about how to influence people, how to kind of win people over, how to, not in a manipulative way, but in a strategic way of, as an example, when you approach someone about advice or getting advice, you want to make sure you focus on them where it's like, hey, I had all these other options, but I know you're going to give me the best advice, and kind of wording it in that way, not saying that, but wording it in a certain way where it's like that person feels chosen. Oh, out of all these people, they chose me. And that person may know you like, wow, you had all these like other options to talk to other people about, you know, whatever this issue you're having, but you came to me specifically because maybe there's a trust, maybe there's my background, maybe we look like each other, we're within the same community, whatever it is. But it's the whole point of making that person feel appreciated or feel chosen, and people like that. But definitely, pick up his book because that book really talks strategically on how to do that. Um, but definitely too, lastly, as I've been mentioning, networking is a two-way street. Um, if you're pouring into someone, I'm not saying automatically they need to be pouring back into you and helping you with your career goals, but um, make it a mutual understanding, a mutual relationship throughout that networking opportunity that you fostered with this other person. What are weaknesses that you have that they have in strengths? What are strengths that you have that they may have in weaknesses, and how can you kind of bounce that back and forth with each other? Another key one, I'm gonna separate this. In-person networking, make sure after you meet that person, follow up. There's usually cards handed. There's usually, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. There's a networking event on Tuesday evening. Make sure probably no later than Thursday. Hey, Zach, it was great meeting with you. It was a pleasure to meet with you. Thank you for talking with me about your background. You're very interesting. I know I'm going on a hiking trip, to Costa Rica, and I know you went there. I'll probably follow up with you in a couple weeks if so, just to kind of get some tips on where to go or places to eat, things like that. Whatever talk about what you talked about, pretty much the icebreaker, kind of bring that back up, or a nice little side joke, and then just appreciate them for their time, and say it was great talking with you. Or maybe you all left it off like, hey, I'm going to have you connect with my assistant, or I'm going to have you connect with Cynthia, who I work with, because I think you all are going to be able to, chat more or talk about whatever that conversation was. And so you follow up that way. Hey, just sending you Cynthia's information. I told her all about you and how we met. She can't wait to talk with you. Here's her email. If you need anything else, let me know. And then you kind of you kind of back away, and then the cloud of smoke comes. So just make sure overall follow up with that person. I'll also mention this too. Uh, During like holidays, or if you remember someone's birthday or their kid's birthday or anything, I'm always big on like, hey, happy holidays. And there's probably somebody I haven't spoken to in like 3 or 4 months, but it puts me back in their mind. Like, oh, Anthony, I haven't talked to that guy in a while. How you been? How you doing? And then that conversation starts. So anything during like holidays or festivals or anything that you can um, kind of touch on is really helpful. As an example, with Hanukkah, I'm not Jewish, but I have people in my network who are Jewish, and so I kind of looked up and kind of knew when Hanukkah was coming around and starting, and I just reached out to people who I knew in my network who were Jewish, and I was like, "Hey, happy Hanukkah to you and your family," and it's like, "Oh, thanks," and they know I'm not Jewish, so that's another thing where it's like, "Oh, wow, that's cool for him to acknowledge my faith and." Happy holiday or happy Hanukkah to my family. So I'm, as an example, just using that where, you can definitely, use different holidays or birthdays or milestones or whatever to really reconnect with people that you probably don't talk to all the time or every day. So I think that's helpful. And lastly, as I always say on my episodes in this podcast, being consistent. So, continue to do it, spread that web out to different people and continue to talk with people and be consistent on LinkedIn and with the post and different comments that can also be very helpful too with the networking and keeping that going with everyone. So I know I laid a lot on you all today, and I hope it was helpful. But last thing here with the conclusion, your network is indeed your net worth. So again, I just want to reiterate that the people you have in your network, they're invaluable. They are priceless. You can't even put a price tag on that. Certain people have gotten to C-suite levels. Certain people have started businesses. Certain people have grown businesses because of their network. Honestly, you cannot do this alone. You can't. Whether it was your favorite teacher or favorite instructor in high school or in grad school, it was somebody that you developed a great work relationship with, and you no longer work there. They still work there, and you all just continue to stay connected. You can't do it alone. So having a great network can really elevate you, as I've mentioned throughout this episode. You invest your time in building those meaningful relationships. People make time to rush and watch their favorite TV show. Take some time and block out a day or one day out of the week to build those relationships. Send out those happy holiday chats or texts. Um, connect with certain people. Have those coffee chats with people that you want to be. That you inspire to be and chat with them. Make time for that. For the people you met in person networking and also offline. Um, or online people that you met networking, and then offline with in-person networking, continue to foster those relationships with people. And again, having those relationships, it can help to aim your career to new heights. You're an entrepreneur, you want to grow your business or start one, kind of be around that community of individuals doing that and help each other out. And overall, having a strong network can make all the difference. So, again, thank you all for watching. I really hope that this was helpful. Continue to network with each and every one of you and each other. A couple of things I wanted to add with this podcast, or podcast overall, is I'm going to start to have guest speakers on the podcast. So be on the lookout for that coming next year. Also, if you have any topics, if anyone's watching this on YouTube, feel free in the chat. If there's any topics you want me to talk about, maybe there's some things I've gone through in life or certain topics I'm not even thinking about that you want me to, talk about and to share my opinion or share what's kind of happening with that, my views on that, let me know. So put that in your chat on YouTube. So thank you again for watching, everyone, and always remember to follow your dreams.